Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Slamhub Wrestling. Myself, Suprit, and this is your main roster talk. And I'm joined by Ridwan here. So, what's up, Ridwan?
Hey Suprit, how's it going?
I'm doing good, man. The WWE Universe is finally back.
Oh, hell yeah.
Even though,
Just
I'm kind of getting a little hate of my, latest tweet that I made. But, anyways, man, we'll clear all that stuff. But, so we're going to be doing, our usual Raw, just skipping fast forwarding through Monday Night Raw and getting to the good part, that is SmackDown, and also doing the Money in the Bank prediction. But before that, if you're new to Slam Up Wrestling, then make sure to like, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Check out our other content, like we just did the AEW Fighter Fest Night 1 review. So that's up on the channel. So check that out, and other content that we'll get in the description below. But let's start from Monday Night Raw, man. I don't even remember what happened on this week's Raw.
this week's Raw mattered jack shit. Like, even though it was the last ever Thunderdome show, the excitement was more towards SmackDown because, of course, it's the crowd who's coming back and it's the go home show for Money in the Bank. It's the last telecast you're going to get before the big pay per view. So, and to be fair, like, this week's Raw was also a little underwhelming, like, as it usually is.
No shit.
But no shit, Sherlock. But yeah, I mean, it was just there. Like, there's some things that happened to further the story. Some were just filler. In fact, most of it was just filler. So we'll talk about this like in bits and pieces while we are progressing through this review.
Come on, man. You have to be the Bret Hart of this main roster talk. So carry me through Monday Night Raw.
That's very flattering. Thank you so much. So basically, the show starts off with Xavier Woods versus Bobby Lashley to kick off the show, and in the continuation to the last week's telecast, this was a match that was advertised for last week initially, but this become like it was then turned into a tag team match. So we are having that old advertisement here, and it was a good solid back and forth. I mean, we've seen these guys wrestle before against each other, and in a surprising twist, Xavier Woods picks up the win over Bobby Lashley. So this leaves Lashley in the spite of like rage, and he was just destroying things left, right, and center. And yeah, he was completely out of his mind, and like they teased something later on for the night. So should I get through that, or should we wait for the main event? What happened?
Did we had a VIP lounge for the main event?
Yes, we did. And so basically, like, MVP was just trying to cheer Lashley up after this this fit of rage that he was in after loss to someone like Xavier Woods. I mean, I'm talking purely in kayfabe here. And Lashley is completely distraught and he's furious. And it seems like they're already teasing dissension between MVP and Bobby Lashley now, as Lashley was furious from his loss, and he just sends a message to Kofi Kingston and he destroys the VIP lounge completely. So we're not sure what's going on here. I hope they're not breaking up MVP and Lashley, because it's the best thing that is actually keeping Lashley going, and it's like one of the few interesting things on Raw altogether.
I think Lashley's time has come, my man.
Yes, but it seems like even if they're not Brock Lesnar, like after we saw Brock Lesnar like being a butcher these days, so apparently there are also rumors, and they've advertised for next week, like not officially, although the building is that Goldberg might be coming back if
Oh,
Lesnar isn't Mr. Bill Goldberg himself.
oh
So
no,
so
no.
it seems even I'm furious, but again, like I have zero hopes from whatever WWE does at this point. So it doesn't surprise me one bit nowadays that things like this is happening.
I think Vince has hated Lesnar because of that ponytail. Huh? We don't want Lesnar with a ponytail. Let's call Bill Goldberg.
Ah, that's going to be a draw.
But enough of the impersonations, man. But not interested in Bill Goldberg coming back. It was one
Yes,
thing
and we
if we had Lesnar coming back, going after Lashley. That was one thing, but Goldberg, that sounds a little desperate.
I mean, it's ironic for me to say something bad while I'm wearing this shirt, but even I'm as furious as you are about this. But let's see what happens, man. I'm not excited at all. Like I was excited for Lashley versus Lesnar. It's a dream match in the making, but Goldberg.
The Lashley's, the hot streak he was on, I think that's slowly coming to an end. I don't know what they do at Money in the Bank. I don't know when Lesnar is coming back. And if this Goldberg thing comes to, becomes a reality, then that's it for Bobby Lashley.
Yes, and a tiny bit of me is hoping it's a bait and switch, but you never know what's going to happen. And if it does see, it does look like it's going to be Lashley versus Goldberg, and it's so bad.
Like if we want to talk a little positive, a match is going to be a little fun, but we know what to expect.
True.
But that's the the whole scenario with the WWE title picture. But what are the other things we saw on Monday Night Raw?
Rest of it was just filler. So they were like, of course, they were hyping for the Money in the Bank, the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. So you had the four competitors from Raw side. That is Nikki Ash, let's just call her that, versus Alexa Bliss versus Naomi versus Asuka. And Nikki picks up the win in a huge upset, which pretty sure it's not going to mean jack shit while the show takes place, like while the match takes place on the pay-per-view. So there you go. That's your that's your build to the women's Money in the Bank from the Raw side. I'm not particularly excited, but once we get to the predictions, I'll tell something. I mean, I'll give my 2 cents on it. And other than that, like the Viking Raiders versus AJ and Omos. So this is a match that is officially confirmed for the first Raw with live crowds. This is going to be the post Money in the Bank Raw, and these guys were in singles action this week. So Ivar faced AJ Styles, and Eric faced Omos. So in classic 50-50 booking, you had Ivar defeating AJ Styles, and on the converse, Omos defeated Eric. And to give you like a little more filler apart from here, it's Rhea Ripley in like just to look strong on her way to face Charlotte Flair at Money in the Bank. She defeats Natalya in a very dominating fashion. Like Natalya got her few licks in, but it was Rhea who was very strong in this match. And like the four more good stuff. I mean, another filler. Let's just get this out of the way. So McIntyre and Jinder had some shit going on, and like it was like had Jinder had stolen McIntyre's sword last week. So in a fit of revenge, McIntyre like he feigns Jinder getting a fake sword, and he has a real sword, and he just destroys Jinder Mahal's bike. So I hope it was his back, but he destroys Jinder Mahal's bike, and that's your feud after Money in the Bank. So as I had okay,
Very childish feud, if you tell me.
yes, it was. It is very. It's like they could have done so much. Like it was as simple as it is to book the story, but they went out of their way to complicate simple shit. So Jinder Mahal, so they are feuding over a bike and sword instead of like their history in 3MB together. So there's your feud set up for the next couple of months, if provided if Drew doesn't win Money in the Bank. And
Hopefully,
hopefully, like we'll get to our predictions later on, but in like for things that actually mattered in this on this show were Ricochet defeated John Morrison in a bloody brilliant false count anywhere match. I mean, it was to expect that these two were going to tear the house down, but yeah, so Ricochet is actually looking strong and doing something meaningful heading into Money in the Bank after a year of terrible booking. So they're actually trying something with him, which is nice to see. And like he is, like I had mentioned in the past, he's a wild card pick, like someone you wouldn't expect to win the Money in the Bank ladder match, but he could actually go ahead and do so for the shock factor. And the other thing that actually mattered was the United States Championship match between Sheamus and Humberto Carrillo. And Sheamus picks up the win in like a very convincing fashion. And post match, Humberto and Sheamus get into a brawl, and Sheamus just beats the shit out of him. And Humberto is saved by our boy on this podcast, and someone we had actually been predicting for a while to go after Sheamus's US title. It's Damon Priest. So that is a feud also being like they're planting the seeds for a feud, potentially and probably at SummerSlam, because Damon Priest has like a tiny bit of hype going for him after carrying the bags for Bad Bunny at WrestleMania. So he has like some notoriety, and this is going to be a brilliant match unless they decide to not do so. The producers, that is, because it's going to be a hard hitting affair, and it's, in the words of Biggie, it's just big meaty men slapping meat. So I'm excited for this match. That's going to happen eventually. Probably, I hope at SummerSlam, but let's see what they do.
And by the way, Sheamus hasn't been doing anything. I think he's in an unlucky position right now. He had little
Yes.
momentum after that Drew feud. Could have done something with the United States Championship, but it is like we talked about it in the past. It was a mixture of his injury and of course the bad booking.
Bad booking. And yeah, so like with Sheamus, he was one of the more entertaining parts for a good year. And it was like a good reward for him by winning the United States Championship from Riddle at WrestleMania. And they could have done something meaningful with him. Like, he was more relevant without the championship than he was with the title, which is actually quite sad.
But I think that was Monday Night Raw.
That was like Monday Night Raw in a nutshell. While like the last sentence that I spoke about Sheamus perfectly describes the champions on the show. But all in all, it was more or less a filler show. But it was kind of understandable because they were just spinning the wheels until the fans come back. And like, it was the go home show for Money in the Bank, and go home shows are usually like, until they put some effort in to make something memorable out of it, it was just there just to build up to the show.
But speaking about memorable man, I think WWE are pulling out their big guns for the return of fans. But before we go to the SmackDown review, have you heard the rumor of the I think it's Becky Lynch. So the report going around is that she's going to attend Money in the Bank. So that's the story going around. So I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happens if Becky Lynch showed up.
Yes, and like, I think Fightful, PW Insider, and another source had reported. So it's pretty much in the books that it's going to happen. And if you had noticed on social media that there are pictures of Becky Lynch working out, not in another tone, but like, she was spotted in the performance center. She was like doing, like, taking off some of her ring rust with by wrestling Indy Hartwell in the coaching classes. So these are like very strong reports and coming from credible sources. So there is a chance we might actually see this happen. But you know for like a big return of that sort, I don't think like they would just just, here's Becky and just enjoy. They could probably build to something like that, or given that the Raw Women's Championship match is happening, and there is a good chance like she might just return, and whoever, I think if probably Charlotte wins, then Becky, and she's just beating out Priya, and then Becky comes up in order to save. Or they might do a segment with her, like, you don't know what's going to happen. But given that there are like these big reputed sources who are saying that Becky is going to appear and attend Money in the Bank pay-per-view, so there is something that they are definitely going to do to sell the pay-per-view altogether.
But if she does come back, then it's going to be somewhat of a intriguing, you could say television, whatever feud she comes back to.
Yes, and given that the even the nature that lately these couples on each show have been like being assigned to these separate shows, but no, yeah, a couple is being on the same show. So there are like strong possibilities that Becky and Seth together might be on SmackDown, but there is also a chance that if Becky goes to Raw, Seth might also jump on Raw as part of the draft. And I don't want to give too much of the draft information away, but as we are building towards the draft after Money in the Bank, there will be more news and rumors that are coming up, which we'll address as we are heading towards SummerSlam and the draft altogether.
So, any other major news happening before we head to the SmackDown review?
Other than that, I mean, there was nothing notable as such, but Becky being the grandeur that Becky Lynch carries. So this is the big news that is there heading into Money in the Bank, and also, like, with the crowd coming back. So this is like a perfect chance of getting her back as well. So there you go. Other than that, there's nothing notable per se.
I think that's the easy bet, getting Becky Lynch back compared to getting a Lesnar or a Cena at this point.
Yes, and she is very much ingrained as part of the WWE programming, and she is like a proven commodity, a megastar, if you will. So it's easier, and she's still with the company in a way. So full timer, I should say rather.
So let's get down with the review for SmackDown. So SmackDown, or the, as you could say, is the first show, getting fans back. And have to say, man, it was really a good show with that aspect alone. And it felt different. And yeah, we got new set, by the way. What you think about the new set? It's actually giving me vibes of WrestleMania 35. The giant LED screen and that
Giant LED
solid
screen.
and that solid black ramp we have. So I think
Yes,
it's not much of a big deal. They could be a little more creative with those sets.
I lost you for a while there. Could you?
I think I was saying that they could be a lot creative with these sets that they come up with.
Yes, for true. And if this means that we are getting, proper pay-per-view special sets, then I'm all in. But this set, like, reminded me less of WrestleMania 35 and more of Monday Night Raw, while, they had rebranded as part of the 2019, the big draft, while SmackDown was moving to Fox, and like Raw and SmackDown were given fresh starts. So this SmackDown set reminded me of the set that Raw used for a while until the pandemic hit. So I wasn't particularly a big fan of this one, and I mean, neither was I a fan of the those uh, the set that SmackDown had used when they moved to Fox, with these entrance stage. And I mean, if I were to compare, I'd still take the set that SmackDown was using on their move to Fox, but this isn't really doing, and you can kind of understand why they did that. It's because of, like, the LED projection and stuff. Like, that was the reason they had gotten rid of the SmackDown Fest in 2008 when they moved to proper HD settings.
Um, and the one thing I liked is you just mentioned about that graphics. When Roman Reigns showed up and they actually have now a moving graphic, that was pretty cool.
Yes, and now they are like, they're fully animating in motion. So this was, I mean, it was kind of hilarious, but we'll get to it eventually. But
O-
yeah, it
Okay,
was very hilarious to see this thing that was coming out.
okay. I think the graphics thing, if you're talking about the graphics, then it makes sense to have an actual solid LED, set. You could say.
Yes, and they've been like, this is the practice that they've been following for like a good 13 years now. So might as well just stick to it for a while. And I hope this isn't the same set that Raw is using, because it's been homogenized for, like, the sets have largely been homogenized. Like, we've seen that, for the longest part, like since they moved to HD, and then the whole the pandemic, and now the Thunderdome era. So here we go. We are back to fresh starts again, but let's see how, either it could be the same or could be different. But like the shows in the past have felt different in a lot of ways, but that's the thing that they followed it for, like, a short while, and then everything is back to, like, similarities between both shows. Like, homogenized is the word that I'm looking for here.
But still, like I said, SmackDown was really a solid show, you could say. But a part of me, was giving them a pass this week. Let's see
Yes.
from next week how, will they, give those consistent storylines that they always promised, or will they start becoming lazy now that they have fans back? But the one thing, let's get through this. The one thing I uh, immensely hated, that they kept the piping noises.
Yes. Like it wasn't like it was persistent throughout the show for like segments that weren't really drawing much crowd attention, so they were trying to pipe in noises to neutralize the entire thing. Yes, I agree with you that they're still using the piped in noises, maybe because like you had mentioned on Twitter that they're not trusting the fans that are giving their all. But like the first few segments, like the crowd was obviously red hot and excited for the show. That was pretty much the entire show for me, to be honest with you. Like the crowd were having a good time, and that's all you need at a wrestling show, and the crowds are the life of the show. Let's just say that.
Like the what I meant was, even for a WWE, you could say audience or a fans, or you could say a show, the fans are really hot. But why are you, covering them with piped in noises? Like the whole
That's
concept of bringing back fans was to get back the genuine reactions. And why are you still doing this piped in noise and shit, like reminding us about the Thunderdome deal you did for the last year and so?
Yes, and yeah, it was very strange, but again, like let's see if they are lazy or if they are competent to actually give us. And for that point of yours, I would say that they would actually be caring to give us something, as they're building towards SummerSlam. They're probably the biggest show of the year this time around, because like they're pulling out all the stops to make it their WrestleMania this time, bringing back the genuine draws and stars, and building towards a memorable show. So they are going to be all guns, they are going to go all guns blazing for SummerSlam. But the main thing remains to be seen is what they do after SummerSlam, is if they're going to be lazy after that, and they've been notorious for doing that in the past. So let's just see what happens.
At least they could do a 3 month, booking, and you can call it their long term booking.
I mean, they've been doing that for a lot of stories right lately, like the feuds that were going on before WrestleMania to until probably, let's just say, a couple weeks ago, like Bailey and Bianca was a thing, Seth and Cesaro. So that's pretty much their version of the long-term storytelling, which is very weird.
But let's get down with the show, man. So I liked how they opened with the, they really, we saw a really good package of, where they said that they have been waiting for this moment for a year and a half at this point. And and they also showed, some of the highlights of over the years, like some of the great moments, like Andre the Giant being slammed by Hogan, or Austin driving a truck or a something like that. And how those moments were amplified by the reaction of fans. So that was your basic package to open up the show. And then we see the fans in Houston. Well, it was really loud. It's a Houston crowd, like that's a wrestling market. It's not very
Yes,
your
and
it's not your typical
the
Josh Moore town in middle of nowhere. That's Houston. That's a
yes,
loud crowd.
and Houston has been like home to some of the memorable moments in wrestling history, like WrestleMania X7, for example. It's been rated as one of the best manias of all time. And in recent past, I would say, like I think I might be spoiling it a little. Edge, who returned to WWE after like 9 years of retirement, and he was back in Houston itself. And other than that, the other thing that's top of my head is Kevin Owens winning the Universal Championship at like after SummerSlam. So these are like the three things on the top of my head that are very memorable in this crowd, in this city. Or yes, and of course, let's not forget Undertaker was the Shawn Michaels one at WrestleMania 25. That was also in Houston.
So they opened up here SmackDown with actual wrestling, no promo, which was a good thing.
I mean, there was a promo, but it was very like a TikTok level promo from.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yes, yes.
Uh,
I'm fast forwarding me here. So they actually, they had to, bring out Vince McMahon there. He actually got a really good pop, and he just said something like, "Where have you guys been?"
Where the hell have you guys been?
Yeah,
And then he just
he
bows
just
and then he
leaves.
goes back. That's very much, it's a very Vince McMahon thing, and it worked for the longest part. So that was great. That was a great way to open the show, according to me.
That was pretty weird, man. I think that you could say proves that the a 70-year-old Vince McMahon is really shy of being on camera right now.
And he has been shy for a while. Like he's been, he's taken a step back, but he's, even though he's largely involved backstage, in terms of creative and everything, all the entire operations of the company, he's still there is another thing. And yeah, I mean, it's like, it's probably one of the Vinceisms that are there. Like, he's, maybe he thinks that he looks too old now, so he's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
shy from camera. So that's
No,
probably the reason, I'm just
like
saying.
I think it's publicly known that he hates being on camera now because of that old factor.
Yes, he is a weirdo at the end of the day.
So he walked off in a way like, if you are busy doing something, but you have turned the gas on. It's a situation like that.
Yes, and yeah, I mean, he's looked like he's aged 20 years and let's just say 10, because like if you notice how he was during when when he was in the feud with CM Punk. Like I was previously watching Money in the Bank 2011 just to remember what a great show it was. And that time, like, Vince was actually quite normal, and I know it's like he's old and he just got like 10 years older, but it looks like he aged more in that time frame. Like he aged 20 years in 10, which was very weird.
But so they opened up with a six-man. I actually forgot. I was wondering why is Roman coming out, shirtless?
Mm.
Yeah, like I said, why is he coming out shirtless? Wasn't he supposed to cut a promo? Then I realized, they actually have a six-man with the Usos. So it was Roman Reigns, the Usos against Dominic and Ray, and their partner Edge. So Edge actually got a pretty huge reaction. And speaking
As he
about,
should.
yeah, speaking about reaction, Roman is getting a 50-50. There are some fans that like the tribal chief that are, and then the other side, obviously hate him for obvious reasons. But the match was really solid, man. Like it was the crowd was really invested in it, and they were pulling off some big moves and pretty entertaining, way to kick off SmackDown.
And these are your biggest stars on the show, so might as well, start off the red hot, like start give the red hot crowd something that they like, and these are your biggest stars. So this was like the perfect way to start off your show with the six-man tag. And obviously it was advertised for like the longest, advertised from last week. And yeah, I mean, this match itself was solid. And it was like, when it's a multi-man match, you're guaranteed for a spot fest. And this was one such instance. Like the my main highlight was probably, I mean, my personal favorite, let's just say, was when Dominic, he did the Sami Guevara Sami Guevara springboard moonsault. Let's, like, this is just my term that I've given it.
Dominic
And
was being cheered, by the way.
yes, it was his first match in front of live crowd, and that's when I think one of Cole or Pat brought it up, and it couldn't have been a better debut in front of a crowd for Dominic Mysterio, because he debuted in the Thunderdome era, and like the crowd was particularly non-existent. Let's just say. Um, Jumbling up my words because of how excited I was during the show. Apologies. But yes, so this was like it was a great match. And they also confirmed that the SmackDown Tag Team Championship is on the line, or at Money in the Bank, with the Mysterios defending it against the Usos in a rematch like from last month. And my like given the importance that this feud has had on the show, it's pretty much guaranteed to either open the show or be in the mid card, because the main event
I
is
think they
definitely a
put
lock
it
in.
on the kickoff show, if I'm not wrong.
Did they actually confirm it? Because
No,
like they
yeah,
didn't really mention it.
I think I'm right about this. I think they are advertising this as a kickoff show match.
Like it kind of makes sense then, because they want to advertise the kickoff, like they want people to actually go and watch it. And yeah, I mean, it would be a killer match regardless, be it on the main card or at the pre-show. But given the importance that the story has had, it should be on the main card, I believe.
Yeah, right. I would have easily pushed Charlotte and Rhea to the kickoff show and put this instead.
Yes, that that feud has gone, like, little bonkersville. So I would personally put it on the kickoff as well.
But about this match, like I said, very fun match. So as we get to the end, Roman is really, he's fine. It's really good to see him, reacting to the crowd. The crowd hates him. You could say a love-hate relationship with Roman Reigns. So this, while this is going on, he was beating the shit out of Dominic. So he gets speared on the outside by Edge. So meanwhile, the Mysterios and Usos are, mixing up, and I think it was Jay who pinned Rey Mysterio in via a
Yes.
schoolboy or a roll up. So
Yes,
there you go.
schoolboy with the tights. And just to confirm, yes, it is confirmed for the pre-show, which is very sad. But again, like, they want to sell the kickoff show. They want people to actually go and watch it. So there you go. It actually, like, I wouldn't blame them for that. And yeah, so the finish was what it was. And the Usos now have a pinfall victory over Mysterios. And the champions do always get pinned here, for even if they already had a title opportunity.
Like,
But yeah, the main highlight of this was, of course, the post-match beatdown, where Roman is trying to beat everyone up, and he just breaks a chair, takes out the handle of it, a broken handle, and then he tries to lock Edge in, like beat Edge with it, but Edge then he locks Roman with the crossface with his mouth wide open. So there is your build for Money in the Bank. The Universal title match, and I'm honestly excited for this.
because of, we could say because of the name factor alone.
Yes, for true. And like this was supposed to happen at WrestleMania, so that's like, you kind of feel bad for Edge in that case. But again, like, it couldn't have come better, with a better outcome of having crowds, like, in full capacity this time. Like he had his WrestleMania main event again in front of crowds, but this is like, that's, is it maybe large in number, but it's your first big show, like with full time crowd back. And they're just going to have a great match, but it feels a little shallow from his Royal Rumble win and WrestleMania main event in comparison.
But I have to say, Edge has been presented really strong in this entire build.
Yes, he has. And like, initially I was kind of worried when he came back. Like he was a heel heading into the feud with Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns, and now he's like, all of a sudden he's back to babyface. But you kind of get that, and it's kind of hard to boo Edge today, especially. And yeah, he's been presented as a very, like, he's the ultimate opportunist, and someone, like, who is a veteran in that aspect as well, because there are younger guys who are trying to imitate him, but he's the master of all. So there you go.
But there was another thing they are fine. They while they are trying to build this, they continue to plant the seeds for Seth Rollins and Edge as well.
Yes, and after this match, they have a backstage segment, and Edge, like, tries to hype himself up and sell the match, and then there's Ranveer Singh on cocaine backstage interrupting him. I'm talking about Seth Rollins.
I was
And
wondering where the hell did Ranveer Singh come in all this wrestling talk.
yes. So they, like, Rollins is like, he's calling him Grandpa Edge, and then he's like, I secretly wishes that Edge wins the Universal title match so that Rollins can cash in on him to for a sweet revenge of, basically cuckolding him out of a title shot. Or Like Roman, he's also like planting the possibility that if Roman wins, he knows where to find him, and Seth can cash in on him. So they are planting the seeds for that, and it's a lock in for SummerSlam, unconfirmed by WWE but confirmed by other sources, and they are definitely building to that. So it's there's your big singles match for the show on the SmackDown side of things, which doesn't include a title.
So moving on, we had Sami Zayn cutting a promo. He's the conspiracy, theorist. He's
Yes.
mad that he's not being, he's not in the Money in the Bank ladder match, and he kind of gets a babyface reaction from the crowd. But he being the top heel, he is. It was he was successful, making the crowd hate him. So Sami Zayn is kind of underrated when it comes to the promo kind of things.
Yes, and like he's been healed for a long time now, and I secretly wish that he turns babyface sometime in the near future. But so far, his heel work has been fantastic, so I wouldn't be against continuing this, and they will definitely continue this probably until early next year or beyond that. But I hope they don't just keep him heel just for the sake of it, and the type of babyface Sami Zayn is. Like we've seen it in NXT and his early run on the main roster. He can be fantastic at that too. And I wish that there is like some story implications where the crowd actually accepts him for who he is, and then like he starts to change himself, tries to pander to the crowd, and he's great at the little intricacies and like being a babyface altogether. So I hope he returns to that mold sometime in the near future.
Speaking about returns and NXT, so while Zayn was cutting this promo, wanting he actually wants the Money in the Bank briefcase, handed to him in a silver platter, something like that. And then in queue, we hear the music of Finn Balor. Finn Balor is back. The problem is, it's not the prince. It's the the underwear model Finn Balor. He's
Balor Club,
smiling
the Balor
again.
Club.
He's happy to be here. And yes, he actually, we had a little face to face between Zayn and Balor. So Zayn goes for I think he was trying to hit Balor, but Balor hits a neck breaker, then he hits that coup de grace, and that's it. Finn Balor on SmackDown, but the underwear model thing, I'm not liking that.
Yes, he's back to what he was. Like pretty much nothing has changed from the time he disappeared from TV and to returning a couple years later. Because the NXT, like I personally didn't follow much of NXT in the past year since they went to USA, and ever since Finn Balor debuted. But like I've mainly seen the takeovers, so I'm not like fully aware of what his character was per se as like the prince, but he was the final boss pretty much, and he was having killer matches one after the other with guys like Pete Dunne and Kyle O'Reilly and even Adam Cole. But yeah, as in like Finn Balor is back now, he was back to where he was. So these are not the good signs and not the good way you want to start your return on the main show. But I'm surprised they brought him up like just a few weeks before the draft, where they could have actually had him called him back up as part of the draft and like assigned him somewhere. And this is also surprising that he is yeah, speaking in that to continue my point, that he's called up on SmackDown where he was actually before being sent back to NXT, or let's just say before he himself going back to NXT. So yeah, as in not was not exactly a great start per se, but it's maybe they might have learned from the mistakes. Maybe Finn would be a little more motivated this time to be have more success on the main roster. But yeah, I hope he's still in the main event picture this time and not like in the upper to mid card like he was in his previous stint.
Problem is, yeah, we want him in the main event picture. We want him going against Roman Reigns, but a smiling Finn Balor, being this model gimmick, no.
Yeah, and of course, like given the reign of dominance Roman Reigns has been on. So you might want to take a step back into hoping that that doesn't happen. And if Finn loses, he's going to look strong immensely, but it's Roman Reigns and he's going to win at the end of the day. So Balor would be back on the mid card regardless.
Give me that Finn Balor from the last year in NXT, sitting, cutting that dark promos and going, being a badass against the likes of Karrion Cross. Give me that Finn Balor, and then I will accept him as a main eventer going against Roman Reigns.
Yes, I actually forgot about Carrying Cross, and that really, reminds me of a few promos. Like I've seen his few promos, and he did well. And yeah, I hope that is again like that is also part of his character once he's returned to the main roster. But again, not exactly a great start. But there you go. Probably, they have something in store for us later on.
Also, he went back to the old entrance, like when he, turned heel in NXT. He was actually not, pandering to the crowd when he used to do that light, his signature entrance. But they have brought that back as well. So let's see, man. Hope
Yes.
they kind of give him, make him as a legit guy, not being just another mid carder.
And have his killer instinct from NXT continuing. So that's all to hope for this time.
So we had, I think it's Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Knox. They were facing the tag champions Natalya and Tamina. Once again, they beat the tag champions, and I have to say, Shotzi Blackheart was really getting a solid reaction.
Yes, and it's owing to her work and in NXT and like a few like she has been a regular. I think is she from Texas as well, if I'm not wrong.
I don't think so. I don't think so. She's not from Texas.
Yeah, nah. Then, but yes, like her look and her like I don't want to say her character, but yeah, her look is very unique. She brings something different to the table, and her offense is also great. So that was probably the reason why. But yeah, she was also firing on all cylinders in this match. Like her and they are actually trying to like maybe it's by accident, but they were referring to Tegan Knox instead of just Knox in instances like I don't know what's the deal over there, but there you go.
And I like that they have added the merch element to that tank of Shotzi Blackheart. Like it actually shoots the free merch, so that's cool.
Yes, that's like a good, how New Day used to throw out pancakes and bootios. So that's probably like in a similar lieu, but again, like it's a good touch to their appearance on SmackDown. But I hate the name cuts that they have. It's just Shotzi and Knox.
I think they will be mentioning her as Steven Knox. I think Shotzi Blackheart, they cut the Blackheart and will be referring just as Shotzi.
But even the ring announcer and her name graphics, it still says Knox, even if the commentators were referring to her as Tegan Knox.
Hey, by the way, remember in the AW Dynamite review, we always talk about, Ethan Page being the star of that whole Man of the Year group and how it, is
Yes,
kind of Scorpio Sky is, is just there.
yes,
I think I'll be doing that same reference here with the team with Shotzi and Tegan Knox. Shotzi actually luckily stood out, but Tegan Knox is just there, and I'm afraid that she will just get lost in the shuffle.
yes. And it is very sad given all circumstances because they were doing something meaningful with her on NXT, and then she gets called up to the main roster in that, like, in just a span of time. So I'm very scared for Tegan Knox now.
But yeah, so they pinned the champion. So we also had, I think, Liv Morgan and Zelina Vega on commentary. They were bickering throughout the match was going. They actually had a little brawl. So the team of Shotzi and Knox won. So they are trying to make Liv Morgan stand out in this whole women's lineup of the Money in the Bank ladder match. And I think they actually had they didn't air it on TV. There was a promo where she was
Hmm.
happy to be in this ladder match, happy to see the fans back. The fans were really giving a good reaction to Liv Morgan.
Yes, and she's fighting against all odds. Like we forgot to mention that Tamina and Natalya were announced to be as the final two competitors in the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, which like undersells the entire hype of the show. But the end, this match was particularly pointless because it was all about Liv and Zelina on commentary, and also like Natalya and Tamina eventually lost. So it just everything becomes null and void in WWE as if you're the champion in non-title matches. But yeah, so this is basically Liv Morgan. She's fighting against all odds. Like she was continuously denied opportunities to enter the Money in the Bank ladder match, and then like now she like there are three heels, and this is the alone underdog babyface who can potentially go on to win the entire charade altogether. So it is pretty like she has all the momentum in the world right now, even with like a few instances of solid booking where she's fighting from underneath and potentially who could potentially go on to win the entire thing. So I'm particularly excited about that factor. But again, this entire match, like given the talent involved, like I had another favorite for this was Nikki Cross, but Nikki Ash, but she's become Nikki Ash, and the entire superhero gimmick, it's too cheesy for something like a Money in the Bank, because you need like legit threats for the championship, and someone who's actually going to lead the division instead of like a peppy outside the world character, which wouldn't really work, or potentially it doesn't work for me, let's just say.
No, 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 no. You can't be, Miss Money in the Bank and save Gotham City at the same time. No, you
True.
that can't happen.
Yes, you need someone legit. And out of all, the only two legit competitors who have like a fair shot of winning are Asuka to an extent and Liv Morgan.
But we'll save that for the prediction, man. But let's talk about this SmackDown Women's Championship match. It was Bianca Belair defending against Carmella. I think it was the stipulation you could say was Carmella will be replaced in the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and she will be gifted this championship match. And this all happened because of the Bailey injury. But anyways, the match here was decent. At
Yes, it was fairly competitive. It was fairly competitive.
I said it in the past that Carmela is actually improved a lot in the ring this last 5 to 6 years.
Yes, she's come a long way and she's improved leaps and bounds, particularly, let's just say, every year. Because at the start of her run on the main roster, she was just there. And then slowly, going from one feud to another, then she faced like Nikki Bella. And then after Nikki Bella, she was part of the welcoming committee with Natalya and Tamina. And then, she becomes Miss Money in the Bank. And after Miss Money in the Bank, she wins the championship. And then she faces Asuka and then loses to Charlotte and Becky, and then becomes the dance break routine, and then she had Reginald. So I've just given the entire like milestones of Carmella on the main roster, and through every step of the way she's done great work. And I find her quite underrated on the main roster. I feel like she is someone who deserves a lot more than what she has right now. And it's only like I feel it's only a matter of time, unless like there is someone as dominant as Bianca currently. But if probably there was someone with less notoriety, like I don't know, maybe I'm just throwing it out of the way. Like, what if, for example, if Tony Storm, like they also announced, by the way, that Tony Storm is appearing on SmackDown next week, and if someone like Tony Storm or someone like I don't know, if Natalya wins, then that's like a good chance for Carmella to become the champion again. But that's not going to happen anytime soon.
And by the way, I got reminded of something. So, did you hear that Mandy Rose got? I think she returned to NXT.
Yes, I was going to mention that during the Raw review, but again, like we just came through. And yes, so Mandy Rose is part of NXT now. Like she was interrupting the match between Gigi Dolin
Saray.
and Sare, and she was just watching the match with vested interest and also as a nod to Trish Stratus in a way. But I don't think they WWE particularly confirmed that, but. It seems like Mandy Rose has been traded to NXT, and in exchange, they've gotten Aliyah, who betrayed Robert Stone and Jesse, to move to Raw. So I'm actually quite scared for Aliyah on the main roster. But I think she'll be just fine because she's someone who has, I mean, she has more of the character aspect than someone like, like she has a bit of character, and I think they're going to build up on that. So I feel she's going to be just okay.
Are you scared for Alia or are you scared for Dana Brooke?
I'm scared for Aliyah, let's just say, because Dana Brooke, despite in the tag team that she was in, she was just there, and Mandy Rose was clearly the star of the act.
They could do something with Dana Brooke. I got a pitch.
Sure, go on.
Someone should create who should tell her not to pick up your phone.
Yeah. It's like, given that this is particularly a thing now, so I wouldn't be surprised if it happens like anytime soon.
But that's the only thing we could say about this whole situation we had. Nothing else negative you could add in this here.
Yes.
But back to SmackDown, man. So we had Cesaro versus Otis. So before this match happened, they had a little backstage interaction where Cesaro was made to look like a complete goof, where he was attacked by Otis. So that's how you treat your baby faces, man.
Yes, we forgot to mention that Bianca Belair picked up the victory, but unfortunately, it wasn't much of a surprise because she was definitely going to do that. But coming back to this, that Cesaro, like, he cut a promo that he was saying, of all the competitors that you mentioned that Otis has put out, you haven't mentioned me. I'm like, why do you care, Cesaro? You're coming off like the main event picture. And he put in a good up down down reference, like it was a boneheaded play. It wasn't a boneheaded play, he said something along those lines. And then he just gets, attacked by Otis, and then we head to this match where it was a very brief match between Cesaro and Otis. And Cesaro wins by disqualification after Chad Gable interferes and gives him a German suplex, and Cesaro retaliates by giving Chad a swing, and then Otis jumps up from behind, and that's your entire thing. So this could also be a match potentially on the pre-show for Money in the Bank, because they are clearly building towards something for Otis, and Cesaro is back to mid card here. So
And by the way, Otis is being featured as a singles act. It's confirmed.
yes, he has been a singles act for a while, like since probably this like after WrestleMania, where he's been taking out Dawkins and Ford by himself, and Chad Gable is just as hype man. Again, I've mourned this enough times, I won't do it again. But
Like the tag division in this show doesn't even exist, man. It's just the
yes,
Usos and Mysterios.
yes, and if by like if they're found Rudolph.
They are being high school kids, passing cheap comments at Bianca Belair. They did something like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they did, and yeah, that's your entire tag scene right now.
But yeah, I think Cesaro won via disqualification when Chad Gable got involved. So let's see, man. We pitched the idea of Cesaro doing big things with the maybe at in the IC title picture, but who knows? They could have had Otis in that position just to make us mad.
Yes, yeah, just to give us a big middle finger. That's that they like doing that.
But so we get to the main event. So it was just a, you could say, showcase for the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. It was Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, and Shinsuke Nakamura and Biggie. So I think before this match came about, we had Happy Corbin, talking about his real life problems where he's losing money and how he has to feed his kids nowadays. So fans are not, buying this shit. So good luck getting this guy over as a babyface.
But given that what he was doing, like he was still passing snide comments at Owens and the fans, because he's like, Texas is a cheap state, and you don't spend. To Kevin Owens, he was saying you don't spend money on your wardrobe. So he's still a heel right now, and this clearly doesn't indicate that he's going towards the babyface side of things. And if they are actually trying for that, then again, like it's going to be a big mountain to climb to get him over as a face, because because he's a natural heel, and he is someone who loves doing that. And portraying him as a baby face despite the situation, like, sorry, portraying him as a heel despite the situation, it actually kind of works. It's different, but it's good, what I feel.
It's Baron Corbin, typical Baron Corbin
Yeah,
segment. So yeah,
it's typical Baron Corbin.
but
And in the ad break segment that they did, so Owens basically like on TV, he like Corbin still makes fun of Owens, and then Owens gives him a stunner for all his miseries. And then Corbin, like, he's leaving the arena, and then Owens and Biggie try to offer him money, so they try to up the ante, like, nah, we're giving you 1,000, no, 2,000. There goes till 5,000, and Corbin just walks away. So there's your story for this week. And it seems if this is the case, then they're building towards Owens and Corbin. That means again, we'll that means there is no chance that Kevin Owens would win the Money in the Bank. But again, let's just save that for our predictions.
5 weeks of Owens versus Corbin on SmackDown.
I can't take that.
But anyway, enough of the Corbin talk, man. Let's talk about this main event. So, like I said, just
Yes.
to showcase the Money in the Bank match. So this match, before the match, I have to say Shinsuke Nakamura actually got a pretty good reaction. The crowd still are doing that singing shit.
Yes, it's good to see, and of course, like this was one of his acts as a babyface while he was on the main roster, and yeah, good to see that return after a while.
So this match, man, I for 1 second I confused. Am I watching WWE SmackDown or I'm watching PWG? Like
Yes, it was.
the the moment Seth Rollins was leaving the ring, Biggie hits that apron spear. Kevin Owens did
Yes.
a dive. Nakamura did a flying knee. Like this is going all over the place.
Yes, like the initial flurry was like very spot fest types, but like even after that, like, there were a lot of memorable spots from this match, like, Owens giving Shinsuke a elbow drop from the top of the ladder, and then Biggie giving Nakamura a big ending when Rollins really like interrupts, and then Rollins hits a curb stomp. If I'm spoiling it, Rollins hitting a curb stomp to Biggie on the ladder to pick up the victory. So it's like the entire. It was pretty much a PWG match, and this is probably the best way to get the crowd excited for the eventual Money in the Bank ladder match.
Yeah, it was kind of unnecessary, you could say, if you think about it. You should be saving this shit for Money in the Bank. But yeah, they did their shit, and at least they sent the crowd happy.
Yes, they did, and despite all of that, like, I am pretty sure that they are going to pull out all the stops for this match, and this is like the best lineup you could have possibly had at this point. And anybody could win, but we know who's not going to win. Seth Rollins, because he eventually unhooked the briefcase in the go home show, which is
That
like a double negative.
that's a curse.
Yeah, that is a curse. So yeah, he's not gonna win the Money in the Bank, and it was pretty much apparent given what they were building towards.
So that was SmackDown. Pretty good show. Let's see if they keep it up.
Hopefully they do.
So let's get into the last segment. That's the Money in the Bank predictions. So let's try to wrap it up as soon as possible. So do you have the card, Mr. Ridwan?
Yes, I do. So let's start off with the pre-show, which is the Mysterios versus the Usos for the in the pre-show for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. Who have you got?
Mysterios retaining to be,
So do
as a
I.
wild card, you could say, option. I'm going with the Mysterios.
So am I. And probably like I'm actually confused right now because like Mysterios could win in like just to continue their reign, and they're just to probably give something meaningful to their reign. But again, if the Usos win, so you could build something towards Mysterios having a moment in front of the crowd, like what I had originally predicted for them to win, and regain the title at a big show like SummerSlam. But fuck it, I'm going for the Mysterios too.
So next up.
Next up, we have Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair for the Raw Women's Championship match. Who have we got?
So Rhea Ripley says that she doesn't get the online hate for Charlotte Flair. So I think WWE will show her when when they put the title on Charlotte Flair. So at this point, this storyline is going nowhere. Put the title on Charlotte Flair.
Yeah, I'm also predicting Charlotte Flair because Rhea's title reign has meant like it's a brutal. This is my brutality that I'm saying, but her reign has meant jack shit. So, and it's sad that it is being presented in such a way. And the safest bet is to, of course, put it on Charlotte Flair. And with the eventual return of Becky Lynch looming, that's probably a money match, despite being done over and over again. But yeah, I'm also going for Charlotte Flair this time.
So I think we are left with the championship matches and the two ladder matches.
Yes, we are. Sorry, I apologize that so AJ and Omos versus the Viking Raiders is also announced for Money in the Bank now. So who have you got in this case?
Um, AJ and almost retaining, because I think the you could say money matches, maybe they are trying to get the titles on both. I could say the RK bro, Orton and Riddle.
Yes, I'm going for the Viking Raiders this time because they've been booked quite strong for a while now, and it only makes sense to put the titles back on them and have these probably have them turn heel later on while facing Orton and Riddle. Because AJ and Omos, if they lose, the tag team is pretty much done. So you could have space for one heel team, which would probably be the Viking Raiders.
So you think the Viking Raiders are going as a heel team?
They're going. I feel they're going to turn heel once Riddle and Orton are in the title picture.
But moving on,
So we have the WWE Championship match between Bobby Lashley and Kofi Kingston. Who have we got?
at this point, let Lashley retain. I think giving to Kingston wouldn't be, it wouldn't make sense.
Yes, I am also going for Bobby Lashley for the obvious reason that there is a big money match waiting, be it if it's Lesnar or cursively Goldberg. And this is a filler feud with all due respect. Like, even if they're trying to build some interest in Kofi Kingston, it's just Lashley just spinning the wheels until he gets something to sink his teeth into for SummerSlam. So I'm also picking Bobby Lashley for this.
Let's talk about the Universal Championship match, Roman Reigns versus Edge.
No surprises for guessing. For me, it's Roman Reigns. What about you? It's pretty sure it's Roman Reigns.
I want to see Roman versus Cena, so that's why I'm going with Roman.
Yes, it's pretty much Roman. It's the Roman Reigns of the day. But moving on, we have the two big ladder matches. So I'll start off with the women's just to get out of the way. So you have Asuka, you have Naomi, you have Alexa Bliss, you have Nikki Ash, you have Liv Morgan, Zelina Vega, Natalya, and Tamina. Who have we got and why?
Liv Morgan, because she's, I think you could do that's a, you could say, good story with her, finally getting her big achievement, getting the women's Money in the Bank briefcase. So, and hope they, push her well with this briefcase. So, I'm going with Liv Morgan.
I would also go for Liv Morgan because it makes complete sense. Like I've always mentioned in the past, that Money in the Bank briefcase is a graduation from mid card to the main title picture, and it only makes that sense that way because Liv Morgan is exactly in that position to, eventually win the title later on. But I like it in with like in a more broader sense. I feel that it's Asuka because. You could eventually give her the win in front of crowds that she was robbed of last year. So you could probably do that. And there is no one as legit as Asuka apart from Liv Morgan who has like a potential, who has like a good chance. Or for a shock factor, you could even give it to Zelina Vega. But I'm picking Asuka this time.
I'm going with Liv Morgan, and you're picking Asuka. So, there you go. But finally, to the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, we got
So, so I'll mention the competitors beforehand. So it's Ricochet, John Morrison, Riddle, Drew McIntyre, Big E, Kevin Owens, King Nakamura, and Seth Rollins. I'm going for Drew McIntyre as I've predicted over the weeks.
Drew McIntyre. It actually doesn't make sense. Like, he has gotten his moment. He has gotten the championship matches. So why get him in the get the briefcase just to put him back in that title picture? So I will not pick
Yes.
McIntyre. I will go with the wild card pick, Kevin Owens. I'm not even going
Mm,
with Biggie. I'm going with
yes.
Kevin Owens.
I mean, I personally hope it's Kevin Owens because I badly want him to win, like on a more personal note. But the signs are kind of pointing towards Drew McIntyre, and I am not a fan of that. Like I've been predicting this for like a good 3 weeks now that it's going to be Drew McIntyre, and I'm sticking to my prediction. But I hope I'm proven wrong on this.
And by the way, they kind of planted the seeds with Biggie on SmackDown with that segment they did with Paul. I mean, so but still,
Yes,
he's up there as a favorite. But I'm still going with the wild card pick. That's the perfect way to praise. If we are if they put it on Kevin Owens.
yes. I mean, I like I mentioned, I hope it's Kevin Owens, but like given the pattern of booking that WWE keeps doing, I'm scared that it's going to be Drew McIntyre, so I'm going to stick with Drew McIntyre because this is a prediction, not wishful thinking right now.
So those were our predictions for Money in the Bank, and hope you guys tell us your predictions in the comment section below. So before we leave, man, where can these guys find you?
So you can find us. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Rid_Aman. And now that we are, we have a new format now on Slamhub Wrestling. So if you're watching this in video form, you can find it just below my bicep here. So yeah.
And you can find Slamhub Wrestling on Twitter at SlamHubW, Instagram at SlamHub Wrestling, and you can catch the audio versions on Anchor and Spotify as well. So this was the main roster talk, and we'll see you guys next time.
Ciao.